Have you ever decided you were going to say no to something? You weren't wondering whether you should say no or considering whether a no is what you're going to say. You made the decision that this time I'm going to say no. And it could be something at work. Let's use the work example, right? That keeps coming to you because you're a big time problem solver and you have the reputation of always figuring things out. So this time you tell yourself, not this time. I'm going to say no. You have the whole scenario figured out, what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, and you're going over it maybe in the shower, maybe on the drive to work, maybe lying in bed at night at 11, 2 a.m. when you can't sleep, going over exactly how you want that whole thing to go. And then you get into the room, get into the situation, something happens, and before you know it, boom, you come out saying yes, you agree. What happened? Well, know that what happened, or in this case, what didn't happen because you ended up saying yes instead of the no, did not happen because you were incapable or you didn't have enough willpower or that you didn't even know better. You already know better. We know this. You're a high achieving woman. And that's what really makes it so frustrating, because you try to set a boundary. And that's what this video is all about. So stay with me, right? Because you want to know what happened. I wanted to say no, but instead I said yes. You've likely told yourself, next time I'll say no more times than you care to count on this hand or even this hand. And you likely also gone ahead to plan what you're going to say, like in the example that I gave you with the work situation. So you think through the reaction, you prepare for it, right? The reaction that you're going to get. And then when you're in it, you feel the pull, tightening your chest, urgent need to make sure that no one is disappointed. And before you can get to that decision point, the decision that you already made, which was to say no, the yes is literally running, escaping figuratively out of your mouth, right? Leaving conversations where you sit in your car afterwards and you're not even angry at them at this point. You're big mad at yourself because here you are, I did it again. And sometimes some of us even go as far as thinking, what's wrong with me? And when you did manage to say no, in some instances, you added a quick explanation, like a softening, so that, you want to cushion the no. So they don't feel disappointed and you still get to maintain that facade of that you're trying to keep going, because you give a reason or an explanation, hoping that it would hold that no in place, that weak no. It rarely does, because no with an explanation is almost like a weird yes, a yes that is a way for you to justify it. It's really weird. But what it does essentially is it gives them room to push back, to negotiate, and it weakens your position. It really does. And I do want you to know, though, it's not because you are incapable again. There's nothing wrong. It really is just what I'm going to share, right? It's not because you're incapable, and that's not why it keeps happening, right? You're thinking, I just need to be maybe more consistent. You're thinking, if I explain my reason clearly, they'll understand. You're thinking, maybe I'm asking for too much. These are some of the negotiating thoughts that we have where we're trying to justify, and it's a bit hot. I'm thankful, but it is still a bit hot. I've read about this. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. Why can't I actually do it? So see, these are some of the things that you're thinking when you realize that say no comes really hard and you end up saying yes even after the most carefully, concisely crafted scripts, or when you end up saying yes, but you have the explanation. So these are some of the things. Nothing wrong with you. It's that every time you plan to say no and come out saying yes anyway, in spite of it, something happens to you that is really hard to identify, right? Because you tell yourself you're going to do something different this time, but you don't. You end up doing the same thing. And the thought that comes usually after this is, maybe this is just who I am. Because if you've been trying something, stuck in the same loop, it's only natural that you begin to think it's you, right? Because the thought is, what does the most damage. And that's why I want to highlight it. It's not so much, sometimes it is a yes, but more often than not, is thinking that there's something wrong with you. What it does is that it shows you how to see yourself. And because you begin to internalize it, you begin to think it's about you doing something wrong or that there's something wrong with you, worse still, you start creating a sense of yourself around giving in, being someone who adjusts easily. Like, this is who I am. I'm someone who just gives in. I'm someone who can hold my boundaries firmly. Boundaries. I'm someone who adjusts very easily and absorbs whatever is around me or absorbs the energy of whoever is around me. And maybe at some point, I've just become someone who maintains a sense of calm, a sense of peace at any cost, because behind that is the fact that you don't want to add it all up, because the total cost is something that is it's a lot and you don't want to deal with it. It might be too much for you to really sit down and think about what are all these yeses costing me at the end of the day, right? And some of it could even be that your weekends look like something completely opposite from what you want them to look like. They don't represent your true desires or what you want to do. And there are conversations that you leave holding, internalizing all the things that you wanted to say but didn't say. So these are some of the costs. Some of the costs that we don't want to deal with are this serious, and that's why we continue to allow the yes to become who we say we are, when in actuality they're not. And there is a way to go around it, which I'm going to share with you, right? And it work case scenario, similar to what the example I'd given. The cost could be that instead of reassigning that additional project that is not something that you should be doing, you take it on because you feel like it's too much of a fight and you're picking your battles, you don't have the energy. What is, doing one more thing really going to do? It's going to do a lot, and it actually costs a lot, So to bring this to some type of, not wrap up, but to highlight what is really happening, why boundaries don't work, is that you try to set a boundary or why I should say the prepping for the yes, for the no doesn't work and ends up being a yes, is because you try to set a boundary. I hope I'm making sense here. And setting a boundary is something you do with your thinking brain. It's something that allows you to decide, to prepare, to commit, which are what happens when you're going over it in the shower, on the drive there, at night. You're preparing, you're deciding. All of that is going on in your thinking brain. When in actuality, the yes doesn't start in your thinking brain. And that's why boundaries don't work. The yes actually starts in your body, and it starts much faster than your thinking. So yes, and then pause. Then you're thinking, it's like, oh, okay, but that's after the fact, So that by the time your thinking brain arrives or catches up with that yes, which comes from your body, it's already happened. And that's it. So you're just basically dealing with the consequences or the implications at that time, and that's why you can know exactly what you want to say. You can be very firm in the decision that you want to make, but you still end up not saying it and actually going in the opposite direction. That's essentially why it doesn't matter how much practice you have around boundary setting, how much knowledge, it's all that thinking brain. That's where that is going on. How much knowledge, how much reading you have about boundary setting, setting intentions, even being fully committed to doing something different. That's why nothing really changes, right? So once you understand where it's actually starting, which is in the body, not in your mind, not in your thinking, in that thinking space, what to do about it becomes something that you can actually use in the moment, because you're no longer thinking that it's going to come from the thinking side. If the solution to the problem cannot come from the same side that is causing the problem, right? So the solution to this problem has to come from a different side, and that is the yes. I mean, the body, where the yes is coming from, the body side of things. You feel the yes, so your brain is saying no, but the body is like coming quickly and giving you a yes, if that makes sense. So that training that I created, that I've been sharing and talking about, is called "What's Happening in Your Body Before the Yes," and it's exactly about this whole thing. It walks you through, gives you simple. It opens your eyes to the neuroscience behind it and gives you a simple 3-step way of, it's not even a strategy, it's an embodiment, an internalized practice that helps you to go from being a yes people pleaser to someone who is integrous and who holds her boundaries with ease, right? Not it doesn't, if you, when you keep doing it enough times, it becomes something that is equally internalized, right? It shows you where the yes comes from, why knowing better doesn't just stop it, and it gives you what actually does. I use this myself, still used it, still use it. My clients use it in my program, and it changed how I move through situations where I used to be someone who would just give in and give in without even realizing I was doing it. Worse still, right? The link is in the description. Watch it before you try to set another boundary, which doesn't work anyway. I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.